Would you rather watch a witch who looks like this or like this?
Dream a little dream of me.
Welcome, kindreds, it's Jessica the Story Witch, and I wasn't going to weigh in on this whole kind of aesthetics and authenticity thing that has been going around in the kind of witchy and tarot community lately, but I was dwelling on it and thinking about it a lot, and I thought, actually, I feel like I've got some things to say. I'm not going to rehash a lot of what has already been said really, really well by other people. Avalon Cameron's video, Avalon the Witch's video, where she was explaining her social experiment that she was doing. She had like kind of invented a persona, witchy persona, and was channeling that while she was making her videos. And the response and the kind of hate she got for that was just really kind of vicious. It was vicious. There were lots and lots of support as well. So I'm not going to kind of go into that as well, apart from to say that I agree basically with what she was saying in that there are some channels on YouTube where people are presenting very kind of basic, generic, witchy content, but they're doing it in a really kind of creative, stylized way, and that kind of content gets a lot more love than more meaty and more advanced content by people who don't look the part. And I did, like, you will have seen my little intro to this video, you know, where it was jokes really, because, you know, maybe if I was 20 years younger and 20 pounds lighter, I could actually pull off that kind of aesthetic. Avalon actually pulled it off quite well, I thought, but perhaps not the camera. You know, it's not easy to create videos like that or to look like that all the time and maintain that kind of level of aesthetics. So, you know, if you are doing that, then for me, I feel almost like kind of kudos in a way, because that is high maintenance. I would have liked to have done a really aesthetic, beautiful video and kind of prove a point in a way like that, but that is not me. I do have an aesthetic, and that is what I wanted to talk about in this video, and also how it links with authenticity and how it links with fake witches, because I think that's why Avalon got so much hate for her video, in that she ruffled feathers because people didn't listen actually to what she was saying, because she was very clear that just because you do look stereotypically witchy, which is something I'll come and challenge a little bit as well in a moment, even though you do look like that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a fake witch. She wasn't saying that all witches who look that way are putting it on, or that they're being fake in any way. What she was saying was that some people are presenting themselves in this kind of way, and they are getting a hell of a lot of love, a hell of a lot of views, and they're kind of making careers on YouTube with that kind of vibe. So, and she finds that frustrating, because she feels like there are channels with much, much better content which don't look the part, which aren't getting the love. So that's all she was saying. She wasn't saying that people who do look the part and have good content and who are walking the path, that it was no slight against them, but I think she did ruffle some feathers, because like, people often can feel a little bit fake within themselves, and if then people start saying things like that, it can trigger those kind of shadow feelings within, and that can make people feel a little bit triggered, you know, and that's what made the hate kind of come from there. Sorry, my husband came in then, and I paused the video. So I feel like this triggered people, and it triggered people because of issues around authenticity, which is another debate. There's kind of been a hashtag that has been going around, particularly in the tarot community lately, and also because of things like imposter syndrome as well, where people feel like they need external validation because internally they aren't feel valid, I guess, you know. So sometimes part of the persona, of creating a persona, and of being, especially on YouTube, presenting yourself in a certain way, or on other social media as well, you know, presenting ourselves in a certain way, can be because that is a way of getting validation. And I can understand that, and I can understand why people got upset when it seemed like, or they heard that they were being criticised, and they heard that they were being called inauthentic or fake witches because of their aesthetic. Because often, I know from, like, I knew that I was a witch from as long as I can remember, and quite often I've seen that goes along with not fitting in. You know, maybe not fitting in a practical way, you know, perhaps you look different from other people, you certainly feel different from other people, you experience things in different ways from other people. So often it goes along with either embracing that and almost enhancing it, and that's kind of what I did. I deliberately dressed in ways when I was younger that was non-conforming, you know, because I felt like more myself when I dressed in those kind of non-conforming ways than if I tried to fit in with what was the kind of aesthetic ideal of how I should look and what my friends were wearing and things like that. And I felt if I tried to do that, and I did sometimes do it, I sometimes, like, friends would say, oh, borrow this, you know, and I'd wear an outfit. And I felt fake then because I didn't feel like that was me. And I feel like that's where the discussion of aesthetics and authenticity, there's more to it, because how we present ourselves to the world, whether that is in a way that is mainstream accepted or whether it is in a way that is accepted within a certain community, you know, like a good sort of like within the goth community and things like that, you know, you can look a certain way and you can be accepted into that community, and that is what some people are looking for in the way they dress. But it is also about personal expression and about how we feel about ourselves, and wearing certain things and styling ourselves a certain way can make, it's more important for some of us than for others. And I am definitely one of those people who is interested in aesthetics, and I even though I'm not aesthetically pleasing in a kind of traditional way or even in a non-traditional way, but I'm interested in it, and it is part of my practice to care about how I look, because I feel like it is an expression of how I feel and of who I am. It was really interesting, one of the comments I saw that Mina from her channel, Mina La Magic, made under Avalon's video, where she said about Laurie Cabot, and she said that Laurie Cabot wears her robes every single day, you know, because she said, how are people going to know where to go when they need a witch if they don't know you are one? And I thought that was quite interesting, and I thought I could see where she was coming from. And even though you know, when you've got young children, dressing a certain way is not going to be that practical, and I'm damn sure that the people who are, you know, presenting these very well orchestrated, aesthetic, beautiful videos and Instagram accounts and stuff don't look like that 24/7. You know, I am sure they also wear pajamas and don't necessarily look the part 24/7. It is a performance, and that is what riles people up sometimes, is that they don't feel that if there's any element of performance, of kind of thoughtful presentation, then that can be criticised as fake. And I think that's where things get a little bit murky and a little bit difficult, because who, for a start, is able to say that another person's practice is fake, particularly when some of these accounts which are getting lots of views and lots of love because of the aesthetics, when the content is not wonderful. And yet, if they are getting all these views and they're living out what they want, they're manifesting what they want on their channels, then really you would think that perhaps they are good witches. Just, putting that out there as a possibility. Of course, it could be something else going on, but I think I wouldn't want to write it off necessarily as all performance, no substance. Just because the actual content they're presenting is not high level content doesn't mean necessarily that they are not capable of more skillful and advanced workings. I don't tend to watch these channels, to be fair, so I'm just kind of surmising. The main thing I kind of wanted to talk about really in this video is that I feel aesthetic has become almost like a slur, and that I am not on board with, and it does upset me. Aesthetic means beauty and an appreciation of beauty, and I think the reason that it gets a bad rap, part of the reason it gets a bad rap in our society, is because of the way the divine feminine and anything that is associated with divine feminine is treated in our culture. I know, like, as a new mum, it's almost like a trade-off of how crap you can look. Like somebody will say, oh God, since the baby's been born, I haven't showered for 3 days. And then somebody else will be like, well, I haven't showered for a week, And it's almost like, oh yeah, and I've got food on my clothes and sick in my hair. And it's almost like an anti-aesthetic, But who is that really helping? It's almost like we are trying to get so far away, and I understand why, because like nobody, especially after you've just had a baby, can live up to the stylized, idealized way that women are supposed to like pop out a baby and then all of a sudden, ching, back perfectly groomed and looking sweet, That is bullshit, and that is a concept that has been. Gender generally is a performance concept, We are performing certain genders, especially if we conform to certain ways of dressing. And female gender performance is a thing. Like, you don't see very many male drag artists. Female drag artists is much more of a thing because female is much more of a packaged gender performance that we kind of understand. You're supposed to look like this. Obviously, it's all exaggerated when it's in a drag performance or in a gender performance, but it's what we are trained into thinking is supposed to be beautiful. So I actually like seeing different ideals of beauty. So I have enjoyed seeing many examples of kind of more witchy and more underground and more, it's not one thing either. When we talk about stereotypical, what is a witch supposed to look like? Well, like green skin and warts and stuff. It now looks like tribal makeup. It now looks like rock and roll. It doesn't look one particular way. And if you watch the big witchy YouTubers, they don't all look the same. There are definitely, Instagram is more for this, like if you do search certain hashtags and things on Instagram, you will see almost a genre of how you're supposed to look becoming a thing. But I still see much more variation within this than you see within mainstream culture, and the way that mainstream culture it encourages women particularly, but also men, to conform to these certain stereotypes and things like that. So it's that link to the divine feminine. Why cannot beauty be something that is not a performance? Why cannot beauty be something which we experience, which we feel, which is just as valid? Why can things not be beautiful and useful? That is my ideal of things, beautiful and useful. And yes, obviously I've talked about it a little bit already, that idea of beauty is not a sort of small beauty ideal from a fashion magazine or from Instagram, but it is something that I see in the small, which YouTubers, there's some wonderful, gorgeous YouTubers who don't look aesthetic in a way. Drew Echoes, or when she walks between the worlds, she is so beautiful. I totally have a crush on her. And Avalon, even in her beanie with her glasses, beautiful. I would love to broaden that idea of aesthetic to Raquel, the Barefoot Taurus. She's really beautiful. It's a broader idea, and that is what I would love to see. I would love to see that idea of the divine feminine, that idea of aesthetic being a positive thing, an authentic thing, something that it is. People don't go, oh God, she's clearly spent too long doing her hair or makeup. Why should you not if you want to? And obviously if you don't want to, then that is totally cool as well. But like I was saying when I was talking about the mums and stuff like that, when you first become a mum and things, it's like, sorry, I just had a little notification on my phone. It's thrown me off what I was going to say. It can also be tied up to our self-care. And I know for me, when it took me quite a long time after my children were born to actually feel like I had that spark of wanting to spend time on my appearance again. And I don't spend time on my appearance for the exterior. Like I was talking about at the beginning of this video, I feel like I want to spend time on my appearance because of how it makes then the inside match the outside for me, and I do really feel that aesthetic is a divine feminine force, and that is why it's important. And it doesn't make you any less authentic or any more authentic. Depends on how you look, is not how long you spend looking the way you do. Does not make you any more or less authentic. And like I commented this on one of Kate's videos, who's also another very cool person to watch, Escape from the Eight of Swords. She'd done a video on authenticity, and I said, yeah, and it's completely possible to be an authentic arsehole, Just because you're authentic doesn't mean that it's something that people are going to want to engage with. So I would love for authenticity and aesthetics to be able to live in harmony, and that is what I strive to do within myself. And yeah, I think basically that's it. A huge ramble. Warmest blessings, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.
Da 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 da.